That bond between a person and their dog, it's just one of the most incredible things on earth, right? We see them as part of the family, our absolute best friends. But have you ever really stopped and wondered, where did this amazing friendship even come from? Let's get into it. So the story we all kind of know is that our ancient ancestors found some wolf pups, tamed them, and boom, we got dogs. A simple story about humans being in charge. But what if that story is, well, completely wrong? The real scientific story is so much more surprising and honestly way more interesting. All right, so here's our game plan for this deep dive. Think of us as scientific detectives. First, we'll look at two very different theories. Then, we'll uncover a really weird biological puzzle. After that, we'll find the genetic master key that unlocks the whole thing, see how humans got involved later, and finally wrap our heads around what this incredible shared journey really means. Okay, so for the longest time, there was this one simple, straightforward story about how dogs came to be. But modern science has uncovered a beginning that is completely different and so much cooler. The old idea, let's call it human capture, was that our ancestors were the ones in control. They actively went out, grabbed wolf pups, and bred them. But the modern theory, it flips that script completely. It's called self-domestication, and it suggests the whole thing actually started with the wolves. So here's the wild part about self-domestication. It wasn't about us. It was about them. As humans started to form settlements, our garbage piles basically became the first all-you-can-eat buffets. Now, most wolves were way too scared to come near us, but you had these few brave or maybe just less scared wolves who were like, hey, free food. They were the ones who could tolerate being close to humans. They got more to eat, survived better, and passed those bolder genes down to their kids. Okay, but this is where the plot really thickens. Scientists started noticing something strange. It wasn't just dogs. Across the board, pigs, cows, goats, domesticated animals all seem to develop this very specific and kind of weird set of physical traits that their wild ancestors just don't have. Scientists gave it this cool name, the Domestication Syndrome. And it's not just about being tame. It's floppy ears, spotted coats, tails that curl up, shorter snouts, even smaller teeth. So the huge question was, how on earth does selecting for one thing, just being friendly, suddenly cause all this other stuff to happen? Floppy ears, spotted coats, it just didn't make any sense. It was a massive puzzle. Well, the breakthrough, the thing that cracked this whole case wide open, came from this incredible experiment back in 1959. A Soviet scientist named Dmitry Belyaev decided to see if he could recreate domestication, but on fast forward. He took a bunch of silver foxes and started breeding them based on just one single quality, how tame they were. That's it. He just picked the ones that were the least afraid of people. And the results? I mean, they were absolutely mind-blowing. In just a few generations, he didn't just get tame foxes. He got foxes that were wagging their tails, licking people's hands, and acting just like dogs. But here's the kicker. They started to look different too. They got the floppy ears. They got spotted coats. Their tails started to curl. He proved it. Selecting only for behavior could trigger this whole waterfall of physical changes. So Belyev's work was huge. It showed what happened, but it didn't explain how. The ultimate mystery was still out there. What was the biological master key connecting all these things that seemed totally unrelated? I mean, really think about this for a second. Tameness is linked to your adrenal glands, your fight or flight response. Floppy ears are about cartilage, spotted coats are about skin pigment. What could possibly connect your fear response to the cartilage in your ear and the color of your fur? It seems totally random, right? Well, the answer is hidden deep inside how an embryo develops. The answer, it turns out, is this amazing group of cells called neural crest cells. Imagine them like the master architects of a developing embryo. They show up super early, and then they travel all over the body, and they are responsible for building a ton of different things, including the cartilage for ears, the pigment for skin, bits of the teeth, and, this is the crucial part, the adrenal glands, which control fear and stress. And this brings us to the big idea, the neural crest hypothesis. Here's how it works. When you select for tameness, what you're really selecting for is a slightly less intense fight or flight response, which means slightly less active adrenal glands. Since those glands are built by neural crest cells, the whole process creates a tiny deficit in these architect cells. And as you can see here, those same cells are supposed to be traveling everywhere else, building all the other parts of the domestication syndrome.
So you can literally see the dominoes fall. Step 1, the boldest wolves, the tamest ones get more food near humans. Step 2, being tamer means having slightly weaker adrenal glands. Step 3, because those glands are made from neural crest cells, there's a slight shortage of these cells to go around. And step 4, with fewer of these master architect cells reaching their destinations, you get the whole package. A little less cartilage makes ears floppy, fewer pigment cells make spots, and so on. It's this elegant, beautiful explanation where one single change explains the entire puzzle. It's amazing.
All right, so that whole process, that was nature. It was evolution doing its thing, with humans just being a part of the environment. But that just gets us the proto-dog. The next chapter, that's where we humans finally get off the sidelines and become active creators. So take a look. This is probably what those first dogs look like. They're not quite wolves, but they're definitely not a golden retriever or a pug, right? These are what scientists call primitive dogs. This was the starting point. This was the raw material that humans would eventually learn to shape. And this timeline is really, really important to understand. That first part, the natural domestication, that took ages. We're talking over 15,000 years where dogs were pretty much just dogs. But all the different breeds we know and love today, the shepherds, the terriers, the retrievers, that's a blink of an eye in comparison. Almost all of that happened in just the last couple hundred years because of intense, focused breeding by people. So the clay analogy is just perfect here. Nature, through self-domestication, gave us the clay, this tame social animal that wanted to hang out with us. And then much, much later, we became the artists. We took that clay and just went wild, molding it into all the incredible shapes and sizes and jobs we see in the hundreds of dog breeds around the world today. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does this new origin story really tell us about our best friends? It completely changes how we should think about it. The big takeaway is this. It's not a story of conquest. It's not about humans taming the mighty wolf. It's a story of partnership. It started with the wolves' ancestors making a gutsy evolutionary bet on us, a bet that kicked off a journey together that has literally shaped both of our species for thousands of years. I think this quote just says it all perfectly. It wasn't something we did to them. It was a path that our two species decided to walk down together. And that really is the whole story. So next time you look at your dog curled up on the couch, remember, you're not just looking at a pet. You're looking at the legacy of a brave pioneer, an animal whose ancestors made a courageous choice to team up with ours, starting one of the most successful and beautiful partnerships this planet has ever seen.